this document that I had sent, the
Mm-hmm.
PDF, the employee guide, which I know you said you took a look at.
Yes, we looked at
This
that.
Great. Yeah. So this will kind of be our Bible for this job. This is kind of our, guide to everything. This is something you can always turn back to if you're confused, but I'm pretty much always available on Slack. So if you have questions or issues as you're, doing this job, I will be there to help. Josh is my boss. He kind of runs the show. He's available sometimes, but not always. And then we have another worker working with us named Kelsey, who's available in the mornings since we're all on different time zones. So she is also online, available, and can help you guys if you have any issues. But for the most part, I'll be your main point of contact for everything. And we do basically all of our internal communications on Slack, which you are now on, and you've I imagine you're slowly getting acquainted with.
Yes.
So you can kind of think of Slack as an office, a virtual office, or a virtual green room, or a virtual rehearsal space, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of the behind the scenes of this whole visit with the Claus's operation. So you can message me directly in this chat that we have set up here. I'm also going to add you guys to this. I'll do a little drawing here. So you see this?
Mm-hmm. Channels.
Yeah, so that's basically like a group chat. So there are different channels for different purposes. So I'm going to add you guys to this one right here, Claus's comms. It's basically communication between, between you guys and our administrative side. And the other Santas and Mrs. Clauses are also a part of this channel.
Okay.
The other channels, these are all basically just
something else.
You don't have to worry about those.
Okay, so we're just the Claus. Okay.
Yeah, so I'm actually going to go ahead and add you guys to that right now. And I assume that you guys will just be working off of this one, your main Slack account, which is fine. So you probably I just heard you got a notification.
Yep, I
so
saw
that was
that.
probably for being added to this channel. So basically, this channel kind of acts as a communication system and time tracking system for this job. So you can see here, this was a couple days ago, Nancy Claus and her husband, who are one of our Claus couples, they signed in and signed out. So this channel is one way that we track that you guys are signing in to start work and signing out when you're done. I think this was 2 calls, so 2 10-minute calls between this time period. And then, there's some other communication up here. People say we're online. There's also some communication here, like someone had to reschedule, a customer had to reschedule, or, this is where you'd say, this is another Mrs. Claus, not our 9 a.m. never showed. So, this is a place where you can say, hey, I'm having issues, or the customer never showed up, or the customer, wanted to reschedule. This is that channel that you would do it on.
Okay.
And it's also the channel that you, like I said before, will just sign in and sign out when you are working. We also ask our employees to keep track of their time on their own as well. So if you wanted to just make a little note stock on your computer or write it down, that way when it comes time for invoicing to get you guys paid out, all of the time that you worked. I will be checking this, but it's just an easier way to kind of log it as you go rather than have to look back into this channel when you want to invoice for your payment and you have to look for your clock ins and outs. So basically, yeah, this is the channel to communicate any issues with calls and also to clock in and out. And if you want to keep
I have a question for you. It's a 4-hour shift, and don't we just stay clocked in on the 4 hours rather than on and off all the time, or?
Well, yeah, so shifts are going to be varied. we are pretty early on in the season, obviously. It's just the first of the month now. And right now, our calls are pretty sparse. So today we had 2, tomorrow we don't have any, Friday we have 1. So we're kind of still ramping up for the season. So as it stands right now, we're kind of just assigning calls on an appointment basis to our performers. But in the future, you're absolutely right. In the future, we're going to be basically clumping all the calls together and saying, hey, Marilee, like, are you guys good to work, Thursday, December, whatever, from 12 p.m. to 4 p.m. Central. And then you would take all of those calls that would happen within that time period.
Oh, okay.
And get paid on an hourly basis.
All right. So it's just, you just sign out when you're finished. You don't have to clock
Right.
out between each kid.
Yeah, when it's busy.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay,
So
got it.
yeah, and I know that I also spoke with Tom, I believe his name is.
Yeah.
I spoke with him today, so he's onboarded as well. And so you guys will kind of just be working together sometimes, and then you two will be working together sometimes. Is
Yeah.
that
Mm-hmm.
my understanding?
Yes.
Okay, great. So yeah, this is basically Slack. You'll get more used to it as you. Oops, sorry, that's another project. You'll get used to it as you use it. So I invite you to look through this if you want to read back and just see what's been going on. You can do that. You guys are also a part of the general channel, which is this one right here. And that's basically everyone that's involved with visits from the Clauses is in here. So, and you had done a message here, and that's fine as well. You can also message me directly, but you're a part of that channel, and that includes other people on our team.
Okay. How long has your company been doing this?
So we were kind of a birth child of the pandemic and lockdown. So it started last year when my boss realized he has 2 kids, I believe, and his kids are like, "Are we gonna get to see Santa this year?" And the answer was no, right? So the whole kind of premise is that kids can get that FaceTime, so to speak, with Santa Claus. And what's so great about this company is the personalization aspect. So when parents book a session online and they pay they pay when they book, and then it gets added to our calendar, they have to fill out a questionnaire about the family and their kids, what their kids' names are, what they want for Christmas, or sometimes they'll say, our son Leo is really, into baseball, or, our daughter Kathy is, obsessed with her new dog. So they'll give us information, and then, there's that personalization aspect of this offering that you wouldn't get if you went to a mall and sat on Santa's lap.
Yeah.
So basically, that is Slack, and that's all of our internal communications. So there's basically 3 different pieces of technology within this job. The first one is Slack. The second one is Zoom. And the third one is our Santa portal, which I'm gonna explain in a minute, because that's kind of unique to this job. So we went over Slack, we went over starting your shift, ending your shift, and this is the employee portal part. So after this call, I will send you guys the URL and the login information for the employee portal. And what I like to do, and what I've told our other actors and performers, is to basically just bookmark this page on your browser that you'll be using to do the calls on, and then that way it's kind of just an easy way to click into it every time. You don't have to type it out. And I might be already logged in, so I'm just going to go ahead and log out real quick. So yeah, so essentially after you've logged in, the next step would be going to this portal, which, like I said, is start to bookmark. And then you'll type in the login info that I'm going to give you guys after this call. I have mine saved, which you can also do on your browser if you want to make it easier. Then you don't have to go back to copy and paste the password each time. So yeah, once you get to this page, sometimes this pop-up comes up. Once you get to this page, you just put in the login information that I'll give you and sign in.
Okay.
And then the first thing you want to make sure of is this right here is a time span for the calendar of appointments. So you just want to make sure that it's toggled to the right time. Sometimes it only does it for the first week, depends on when you log in. So just make sure that you take a look at that and you can adjust this kind of span of time that it's showing you all the appointments for. That makes sense?
Yeah.
And then here is where you'll find all of the different bookings. So I'm actually going to change this to start on the 1st and end on the 24th because that's current, right? So we don't have any calls for the clauses until the 4th, it's looking like, which you can see right here. This is the first one that comes up. I think we have a few Santa only appointments, which is on a different account, but you guys don't need to worry about that. So yeah, so essentially, you know, if I said, I would basically reach out to you on Slack and say, you know, hey, Marilee, I want to book you guys for this call or this shift. Are you available on this day, these times? And then you'd either accept or decline based on your schedule. If you accept, then basically what you would do is kind of sign on, say, you know, there's a call starting at 11. That really means that you should jump onto the computer like 15 minutes prior to that, get everything set up. So, you know, let's pretend that you guys are taking these calls, right, on December 11th. So you would basically jump on at 10:45 Central. Everything's in Central Time, which is nice for you guys because you're on Pacific Time, so you
No, we're
won't ever
on,
have it.
We're on Eastern.
we're on Eastern.
Oh, you're on Eastern. Sorry, that's what
Yeah.
I meant. You're on Eastern
Yeah.
Time, which means you will never have a super early call.
Right.
So all of these times are Central Time and we just have to adjust.
Right. So 11
Right.
o'clock is 10 o'clock.
No, it's
For us, it's 10.
It's
Yeah.
12.
11 o'clock would be 12.
Oh, that's
we're
right.
12.
That's right. The other way. Yeah.
So that's what I meant about like you'll never have a super
Yep.
early call
Right,
because
yeah.
you guys are 1 hour later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, so basically everything's on Central Time, and that's just how we operate. Our business is based out of Chicago, so I'm actually on Pacific Time. We have people working all different time zones, and that's just a way to kind of create a baseline so no one's confused. We're all in Central Time. If you see me talking about times in Slack, it's in Central Time, always. So let's pretend that you guys accepted these calls, the shift. It's not really a shift because they're in 2 very different times of the day, but let's say you guys accepted these. So what you would do is first go onto Slack and, you know, go onto that channel like we discussed before and clock in. And then the next step would be to click into one of these. So you'd come in, you say, oh, it's December 11th. We're taking that 11 a.m. call. You can basically click into this. And right here is basically your link to jump on the Zoom call. And we're going to talk about Zoom more after this, but essentially you just click this, which is like super easy. And
Oh,
how
okay,
you just
that's
jump in.
easy.
Sorry?
I said that's easy, just if you have the Zoom link, we just did it.
Right. So you guys will have to be logged into our account, which I'm going to go over after this portion of the onboarding. But yeah, it's super easy because you'll just click it and then it'll prompt Zoom to open that meeting. And again, we ask that the performers basically, you know, get into this whole system about 10 to 15 minutes before the call, and then to jump into the actual Zoom meeting maybe 2 or 3 minutes before the call, just to make sure everything looks good. Your background is, you know, within the frame, and there's nothing kind of shattering the illusion of the North, you know, it being the North Pole or Santa's workshop. And then the, you know, the customer will jump in, and we'll go over more on Zoom after that. But basically, yeah, this is where all of that information is housed. So if you were going to start at the 11, if you were going to take this 11 a.m. call, you'd open this up, and then you'd get a bunch of information about the customer and their family. So this right here is basically whoever bought the booking. So it's usually the parent or guardian of the kids. And you don't need to worry about phone number, email. That's just for administrative purposes or price. And then, how did you find us? That's also not really important to you guys. What's going to be important is this information.
The bio on the
right
kids. Yeah.
Sorry?
The bio on the kids.
Exactly. So you'll say, oh, you guys, how's it going over there in Denver? And you get information, you get the kids' names, Maggie, tells you who her best friends are. And then, Nicholas is the other kid, almost 4, loves dinosaurs. Looks like they have 3 kids. Elliot is 19 months. So yeah, they give you basically the names of the kids. It can sometimes be a little confusing. For example, like this person put in kid names of friends and not just their kids. So just want to make sure to read through this and really be thorough with
Okay.
what the kids' names are. And then,
Ad lib
So-
from there.
So you said now when we go to Zoom, this doesn't stay up on the screen, so we should probably have a notebook and write some notes.
Yeah, some of our Santas like to print this page out or take
Right.
notes.
That's what I was going to print it
Some
out.
of our Santas like to memorize it as if it's like lines in a script. Whatever works best for you. I will say that this one happens to be a little bit more confusing than a lot of them.
Yeah, that has a lot of stuff on
Like-
it.
Let's just go into a different one. I can show you. So like, okay, this one, these guys have 4 kids, and they put the age next to each one, which helps.
Kylie, like,
Blake, Noah. And again, this one actually is pretty thorough as well. I'm trying to find one that's more basic. Okay, here's a good one. This is, a set of twins. So they live in Pennsylvania. And they're twins, Alexa and Kiana Wright. Twins, 7 years old. They give you an indication of which one is which. They got a new puppy this year. They both love dance class. And then so this is basically a little bit about them. And then the next question that we ask is, are there any special things you want to ask? The normal questions that the Santas ask and the Mrs. Clauses ask are, what do you want for Christmas this year? And, were you good this year? And, are you excited for Christmas? And that kind of those kind of basic Santa questions. And usually they say no in terms of if you would like us to modify these questions. So, it's pretty basic with this
Sure,
question.
yeah,
good
There's
information.
some people have an elf on the shelf, and they include the name so that you can be like, how's Noelle doing on the shelf? And then the
Are you
last one
kidding
is
me?
important. So, are there any sensitive issues that we should avoid or special things you'd like us to talk about? In this case, they say no, but sometimes they'll say, the kids don't live with their dad, so don't bring up dad. Or, sometimes the special things will be like, we had one today where the little girl skipped ahead a grade in school and is doing like exceptionally well in school. And so that's like something they really wanted Santa to talk about. Another one we've had before is, little Charlie just had his pet, hamster just died and he's really broken up about it. Maybe you can say something compassionate about the hamster.
Okay.
So that sensitive issues one is just important. I would say specifically if like there isn't a parent living with them, or if there's some sort of not weird, but out of the normal family
Yeah.
kind of thing. And then, so basically in this section, these are the important things. That last video call recording, you don't have to worry about that. That's just something for the administrative side. What's really important is just knowing where they are, knowing their names, knowing a little bit about them. And half the time the kids are just so like,
Starstruck, yeah.
in awe that you even know their names. So It's pretty cute. If you know their pets' names, they go crazy.
Mhm.
So that's basically where you'll get that information. And so each call has an individual Zoom link. So say you are on a shift for 3 hours and there's multiple calls within those, you want to make sure to start the Zoom meeting that relates to each call specifically, if that makes sense. So
Yeah.
Yeah, it
I'll
does.
go into Zoom a little bit more, but yeah, so just a little refresher. This is the Santa portal. This is basically where you get all the information for the calls and where you start the calls. I like to keep, that bookmark here. And if you end up saving the credentials, then you don't have to log in each time, and you just come down and you can see everything here. Do you guys have any questions so far about
I don't.
the portal?
I don't think so.
Okay, great. So the next thing we'll go over is Zoom, which I will give you the login info for after this call, along with the Santa portal info. So there are basically the biggest, I would say the most crucial part about Zoom for this job is making sure that you're logged into the Santa account. So we want, when the kids come into the call, we don't want it to say merrily on your Zoom part. We want
Oh,
it to
yeah.
say Santa and Mrs. Claus, right? So basically, you just want to make sure that when you have Zoom, and I'll actually log out here. I don't know. Do you guys use Zoom for other things?
I do, yes.
Okay.
Just with, during the pandemic,
Right.
we did Zoom church, and I had
Quilting.
kids. Our quilt guild does Zoom, and the kids I tutored had to do Zoom school.
Gotcha.
And
okay, great. So it sounds
I
like
have
you know a
used
little
it.
bit about Zoom,
Yeah.
which is helpful. So yeah, I'd say just, the number one thing to remember is to log out of your personal account and log into our account when you're doing these calls.
Okay. Well, I don't have a personal account, so I would only be in yours.
Oh,
So
okay,
that
great.
helps.
So basically I will give you this login info like I mentioned after this call, but you just log in with these credentials and then you'll be logged in. So as long as you're logged in, you're good to go. You can, click the
Now,
start Zoom.
if with each one of these calls, if I log in with that number, won't it automatically be with Santa calls? Since I don't have a personal Zoom account, I have Zoom, but
Yeah, that's what you're doing initially.
but when I go into Zoom with other people, it puts my name on there automatically. But if I do it with this one, it won't.
So as long as you're logged into our account, as long as you're logged into our account, like I'm saying, you can see here that it'll say, it doesn't let me draw while I have that open. But if you see what I just opened, you can see it says the clauses right there.
Yeah.
So that is what it'll show up as. It might also say Santa and Mrs. Claus when you're actually in the call, but yeah, that's basically the important thing. And then, just to make sure you're, if you are using Zoom for other things, you're not using our account when you're on Zoom for other purposes.
Okay.
I have a feeling if you're using Zoom, you actually do have an account. You just might not know it.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm wondering, just because when I